and welcome to ENI UK and Europe Edition. I'm Giancarlo Matera, reporting from London. We bring you news reports from around the United Kingdom and Europe, and we have reporters on standby, ready to give you their reports. On our program today, France and the United Kingdom vow action after the deadliest English Channel migrant crossing tragedy. Face masks indoors and booster shots for all adults are among the new measures in France. We have a live report by Janelle and Kasuga. Hello, Janelle.
Good morning, Giancarlo, and my report will be about how a rare type of wild honeybee was discovered in south central England.
Thank you so much, Janelle, for that report. From Spain, we have a COVID-19 booster jab being offered to the over 60s. This report is brought to us by Beverly Madrid. In France, the former Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, eyes the French presidency. This report is brought to us by Febeline Calpo. In Turkey, the new Filipino community officers take oath in Istanbul. A report by Mel-Marie Joy-Cavert. And in our sports report, late goals from Ronaldo and Sancho secure qualification for Manchester United. This report by Ryan Florentino. We will end our show, as always, with our view from our window. And this week it's coming from the spectacular Panathinaikon Stadium. But first, our main news headlines again. Britain and France were on Thursday looking at measures to limit the migrations across the Channel and break people smuggling networks after at least 27 migrants trying to reach England drowned off the northern French coast. The disaster is the deadliest accident since the Channel in 2018 became a hub for migrants coming from Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, who have been increasingly using small boats to reach England from France. French President Emmanuel Macron, after vowing France would not allow the Channel to become a cemetery, spoke to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson to agree on stepping up efforts to thwart the trafficking blamed for the surge in crossing. Prime Minister Jean Castex also held a crisis meeting on Thursday with ministers to discuss new measures. His office said that the 17 men, 7 women, and 3 minors died when the inflatable boat lost air and took on water off the northern port of Calais on Wednesday. A manslaughter probe has been opened, and the disaster poses a new challenge to cooperation between France and Britain after Brexit. Initial statements from both sides, pinning responsibilities on the other party to act, indicated the tragedy will not be an automatic catalyst for cooperation. Interior Minister said that the total of 5 suspected traffickers accused of being directly linked to the doomed crossing had been arrested. The 5th man suspected of buying the inflatable boats for the crossing. It also said that the 2 survivors, an Iraqi and a Somali, had been found and they were recovering from extreme hypothermia and would eventually be questioned. In telephone talks, Johnson and Macron agreed upon the urgency of stepping up joint efforts to prevent these deadly crossings, and that it is vital to keep all options on the table to break the business model and the smuggling gangs, according to Downing Street. But Boris Johnson told British media in London that he faced difficulties persuading some of our partners, particularly the French, to do things the way the situation deserves. And in a terse readout of the talks, the French government, Macron, told Johnson that France and the UK have a shared responsibility, and added he expected the British to cooperate fully in the restrained, exploiting and dramatic situation on their political end. British officials said Boris Johnson renewed an offer to send police and border forces to France to carry out joint patrols along the Channel coast, an idea that had been rebuffed by Paris in the past. In a sign of the tension, Britain's biggest selling tabloid newspapers all carried a front-page picture of a French police vehicle apparently sitting idle by a migrant as the migrants entered the water of northern France. More than 25,000 people have made the cross-channel journey in small boats this year, 3 times the total of the whole of 2020. It's insisted by Paris that it was doing all that it could to break the trafficking network, saying that France had arrested 1,500 people smugglers since the start of the year and accusing them of operating like a mafia organization. He was due to hold new talks with the British counterpart Priti Patel later on Thursday. France saw more than 32,000 daily infections last Wednesday, a record in the past 7 months. To counter this 5th wave of infections, which the government qualifies as stronger and longer than the previous wave, the government announced new measures starting this weekend. COVID-19 booster shots are now available not only for people over 65, health workers, or people with health conditions, but also to all adults. And masks are required again in all closed public spaces. Masks could also be made compulsory at some outdoor events. After the new year, effective January 15, 2020, people aged 18 would need to show proof of a top-up vaccine dose to maintain a COVID pass, which is required to enter restaurants, gyms, and other public venues. For now, at this stage, the government is still ruling out imposing another lockdown or curfew. French Health Minister Olivier Véran said Thursday we can get through this wave without using the most restrictive tools used by some European countries to fight the spread of the virus. President Emmanuel Macron's government plans instead to keep up pressure on people to get immunized and to reinforce rules on mask wearing. It's time for a break now, but please come back for some more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Extra flavor, pwede rin natin itong... Ano mo flavor na mo, minta? Yung hint ng anghang ng suka, perfect na perfect, kapartner yung itong pansit. Yung ang ano na niya, ang thick. Finished product. Looks good, diba?
Oh, Paul! Anong ginagawa mo dyan? Bakit nakailata ka dyan? Ang aga-aga pa eh. Gusto mo na matulog?
Ano matutulog pinagsasabi mo? Natulas ako eh. Ba't kasi dito na itinapon itong mga balat ng saging dapat sa basuran eh?
No. Hindi pwedeng itapon ang balat ng saging.
Mula sa bunga, puso at iba pang parte nito, pwedeng pakinabangan. Maging ang balat, pwedeng lutuin at kainin. Masarap, masustansya, at pwedeng panggalingan ng kita. Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito po ang Unlad, Kagapay sa Hanap Buhay. Sa Hanap Buhay!
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe edition. I'm Giancarlo Matera with more interesting stories from the UK and Europe this week. A rare find delights bee conservatives. Joining us live today to join us with the details is Janelle Ann Kasuga. Hi, Janelle.
Hello, and yes, bee conservationist Philippe Salbany discovers rare wild honeybees as he hangs up an ancient oak tree. Let's take a look.
It's our responsibility to translate what we found here into other parts of the world. So we are not mixing subspecies of honeybees and mixing diseases, mites, etc. And it'll be negligent of us not to recognize that there are these ecotypes of bees that are unique to ecosystems. They are absolutely unique, and they're unique to cultures as well. And so it's definitely, the fact is that it's survived over a long period of time in its native environment. That's what's critical. If we can identify those bees, then we stop mixing all the different lineages of bees and we get fewer die-offs. Okay? Once we start getting fewer die-offs, we can keep pollination at good levels. Okay?
Secured by ropes and a harness, while he peers inside an ancient oak tree, he dangles around 15 meters above the grounds of Blenheim Estate. The South African conservationist has spent much of the last 18 months scouring for hives in the ancient woodlands of the estate near Oxford in south-central England. He has identified them as a rare ecotype, a distinct form of a species occupying a particular habitat with a suspected centuries-old lineage in the self-contained corner of the Oxfordshire countryside. DNA tests are now underway to confirm the finding, but the potential discovery of wild descendants of the so-called native bees has Blenheim and beyond buzzing with excitement. It was thought such populations had largely disappeared due to disease, pesticides, and competitions with foreign imports. Salbany believes their continued existence has global implications. In Britain, where most bees are imports found in managed hives, it is estimated that 1/3 of the wild population has disappeared over recent decades, decimated in particular by the Voroi mite. The Blenheim bees appears unaffected by this, leading Salbany to suspect they have evolved to live with the parasite, among other adaptations. With large tax of Blenheim off-limits to the public and no managed hives or agricultural productions using pesticides on site, it has provided the perfect environment for the ecotype. Rob Stoneman of the Wildlife Trust charity called the discovery remarkable, that it shows the value and complexity of our ancient woodlands and the need to protect these unique habitats in perpetuity. Stoneman said it reinforced the importance of creating more wild places, citing the Trust's campaign to protect and connect at least 30% of Britain's land and sea for nature by 2030. Back to you, Giancarlo.
Thank you so much, Janelle. But can you tell us again a little bit more about why these bees are so special and how do they compare to the honeybees that Philippe Salbany discovered?
Well, bees are one of the indispensable parts of nature, and our environment, as they pollinate the vast majority of the food we eat, such as fruits and vegetables. However, Salbany argues that managed honeybee populations have been overly colonized to serve human consumptions, which have negative environmental impacts. For example, this stresses out the bees and it can outcompete other insects. Salbany believes that humans have also commercialized honeybees, something that should not have been commercialized. The honeybees that Philippe Salbany discovered seem to be untouched by the general population, as they are smaller and they have evolved to survive known parasites since they have been untouched by humanity. Giancarlo?
Thank you so much for that interesting story and joining us today, Janelle.
Thank you for having me. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Janelle Kasuga. We live in interesting times.
Okay, the rise in COVID-19 infections being seen around Europe is also affecting Spain. To give us an update now from Barcelona, we have Beverly Madrid has the report. Let's watch.
Despite having the highest COVID-19 vaccination rate in Europe, experts warn that Spain still remains vulnerable to the virus in cold weather. The Spanish government began administering booster jabs to people aged 70 plus and to severely immunocompromised people. Now, as the number of infections rise, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said that Spain will now start providing COVID-19 booster shots for those aged 60 and over, as well as health staff. According to Sanchez, the key to curb the pandemic is to continue the successful vaccination strategy in the country. In Spain, around 79% of Spain's entire population is fully vaccinated, compared to just 68% in Britain and Germany and 75% in France, which makes it one of the highest COVID-19 vaccination rates of Europe's big nations. While Spain's 14-day average infection rate increased to 96 cases per 100,000 inhabitants, it remains below that of neighboring countries. Spain joins a growing group of European nations that are offering booster shots to certain groups of at-risk people, including Italy and Greece. Reporting from Spain, I'm Beverly Madrid. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Beverly, for bringing us that latest from Spain. It's time for another break now, but please come back for some more ENI UK and Europe edition.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are Open for Business, your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hi guys, I'm Red Jano. Catch me on Letters and Music on air and online this coming Sunday, November 28th, 1 to 2 p.m. only here on Net25. See ya!
Ma'am, yung pumasok ng pandemya talaga sobrang dagok. Talaga grabe yung ginawa sa amin. Tapos, sasabihan pa ng sakit ng asawa ko. Ultimo gamot, ma'am. Magkano lang ang gamot? 2, 3. Hindi ko pa mabili. Oh, siguro, pagsubok lang naman to. Hindi naman siguro ibibigay sa akin to kung hindi ko kaya.
Hindi nagsasalita. Naninikip yung dibdib niya. Tapos, pumunta ka na ngayon dito, kuya.
Ano naman? Puro kabiro.
And presence of uniformed personnel to enforce quarantine procedures.
Parang kang superhero, Papa.
Isipin may makakain ka lang. Diba? Sabi nila na lalabas ka. Hindi ka ba nihawa? Sana mo paglabas mo. Hindi mo alam po nakakuha na ng sakit. Diba ganun? Ako inisip po. Kasi naman, hindi ako lumabas. Gutom naman kami.
Para sa isang tatay, napakasarap maramdaman na buong-buo ang tiwala ng iyong pamilya. Nasama-sama niyong malalagpasan at mapagtatagumpayan ang anumang hamon ng buhay. Kahit na mabigat na pagsubok ang pinagdadaanan natin, bagong pag-asa at bagong inspirasyon ang ihahatid namin sa inyo.
Pinapangarap niya na mapagamot siya, ma'am. Ito na yung katuparan na para mapagamot siya. Ito na yung katuparan na para mapagamot yung misis ko, Sir Eduardo B. Manalo, Maraming salamat po sa naitulong nyo na ibinigay po sa aking pamilya.
Kaya kung kayo ay may kakilala, kaibigan o kamag-anak na nais niyong lingapin ang aming programa, ipadala niyo sa amin ang kanyang kwento. Ako po si Apple David at ito ang Lingap Stories.
Welcome back to ENI UK and Europe Edition. I'm Giancarlo Matera with more interesting stories from around Europe this week. The former Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, joins the bid for French presidency. Febeline Kelpo has some of the details. Let's watch.
Michel Barnier, former Brexit negotiator who won acclaim for his steady handling of the long negotiations on Britain's separation from the EU, is one of the 5 politicians running to represent the Republicans in April's French presidential elections and is bidding to become the presidential candidate of the right-wing Republicans. If elected President of Parliament, Barnier told France Info Radio that he would push for the introduction of a 6-month military security civil protection for all men and women between the ages of 18 and 21. He also said such service would help foster a feeling of belonging to the nation and allow young people from different socio-economic backgrounds to socialize. Barnier's proposal to bring back military service marks his latest attempt to seek the support of conservative voters who have also shifted to issues including immigration. Barnier said, "I see the risk for our country of patriotic sentiment disintegrating and eventually disappearing." One of Barnier's platform is a halt to immigration and an unexpected call to France to reclaim its judicial independence from European courts, which he accuses of undermining the EU. Barnier and his 4 rivals, including the head of the Northern Hauts-de-France region, Xavier Bertrand, and Paris region Chief Valérie Pécresse, will hold a 4th and final TV debate on November 30. From France Bureau, I am Febeline Calpo, reporting for Eagle News International. We live in interesting times.
Thank you for bringing us that report from France, Febeline. Following the eased restrictions in Turkey, new officers were finally able to take oath to serve the Filipino community in Istanbul. We have a report from Melmarie Joy Cavet. Let's listen in.
The Filipino community officers in Istanbul, Turkey, had their oath taking. Due to the pandemic caused by COVID-19, mass gatherings have been banned in Turkey. This has delayed the oath-taking of new incumbents in the Filipino community here in Istanbul, Turkey. Now that the restrictions are gradually being eased, they have taken the oath and they celebrated their first anniversary of the Filipino community in Turkey, or FCT. The event was full of surprises and giveaways. A special guest from one of the prestigious airlines announced the great news that our countrymen will be given extra kilos from their luggage whenever they chose to fly with them. The event was also attended by Turkish nationals belonging to the Philippine Arnis Club from Izmir, Turkey, where they showcased their talent in using arnis, which is the national martial arts of the Philippines. And even before the end of the event, Consul General Arvin de Leon of Istanbul, Turkey, presided over the swearing-in of the newly elected incumbents of FCT, or Filipino Community Turkey. And here is the short interview and the message of the Consul General for our compatriots here in Turkey, especially here in Istanbul.
Advise all Filipinos here to make sure that you keep on practicing social distancing, always wear a mask and avoid crowded places. The pandemic is not yet over. As for Filipinos who are aspiring to work here in Istanbul and in Turkey in general, please make sure that you have the correct papers. For example, make sure that your work contract undergoes verification by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office in Lebanon. This will ensure that you will get the right benefits and proper compensation for your work.
The newly elected officers of the Filipino community in Istanbul are hopeful that they will be able to administer their post well and help the Filipino community as a whole. From Istanbul, Turkey, I am Mel Marijoy Cuvet. We live in interesting times.
In sports now, Ryan Florentino gives us the latest in football. Let's listen in.
Cristiano Ronaldo's excellent goal helped Manchester United win 2-0 over Villarreal on Tuesday and seal their place in the Champions League's last 16. Ronaldo's splendid lob was then capped by Jadon Sancho's first United goal at the Ceramica, where caretaker manager Michael Carrick dropped Bruno Fernandes to the bench. After a turbulent few days that saw Solskjaer sacked following Saturday's humiliating 4-1 defeat by Watford. With Villarreal in second up against Atalanta in the first game, United, who finish at home to Young Boys, are now guaranteed to go through and most likely in first place. Villarreal, the Europa's League champions, who will likely have to beat Atalanta now to make it through, had chances but failed to take them and were punished. The first half of the game was compelling even if it never quite caught fire, with both sides seemingly waiting for the other to either overcommit or make a mistake. The changes had given United momentum, and in the 78th minute, Ronaldo struck. Ruby played the ball to Etienne Capo around 30 yards out, but the midfielder was immediately pressured by Fred, who forced the ball close to Ronaldo. With Ruby out of his goal, Ronaldo cushioned the ball over his head and in. There was still time for another, and again Ronaldo was involved, winning the ball back and then sent clear down the left. His pass inside was moved on to the back post, where Sancho controlled and rifled it in. And that about does our weekly sports report. I am Ryan Florentino, reporting from the United Kingdom for ENI UK and Europe edition, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you for your sports update, Ryan. For our view from our window today, we take you to Greece. And this is the spectacular Panathinaikon Stadium, where the first celebration of the modern Olympic Games took place in 1896. The stadium was first used in 330 to 329 BC, and the gleaming Panathinaikon Stadium is a must-see, as it is the only stadium in the world made entirely out of marble. To know more about the stadium, stay tuned for our future lifestyle report, fully dedicated to this historical and architectural treasure. Today's view is courtesy of Tristan Regino and Mark Anthony Mendoza. Thank you for this spectacular view, and we look forward to knowing more about it very soon. That's it for today's program. We hope you stay safe and keep positive as we bring you more stories next week from the United Kingdom and Europe. I'm Giancarlo Matera, and we live in interesting times.
Totoo ang kasabihang may pera sa basura, lalo na kung magagawa ang iba't ibang bagay mula sa mga recyclable material na inaakala ng iba na itatapon na. May ilang barangay sa bansa ang nagre-recycle ng basura at makikita ang iba't ibang bagay na gawa sa basura.